welcome to the show, Living with Climate Change. This video is kind of an appendum to the first show that was called Facing Climate Change Grief. And I just wanted to clarify a couple things I said on that show. And I wanted to give some resources to other information about this topic. So first, one thing I said in this last show was that if we could somehow put ourselves in the future, that it would be the same. Now, I hope that I'm not saying that there will be no effects from climate change. And I think I should say at this point that I'm for taking measures to reduce climate change and CO2 emissions, to reduce pollution, to transform the economic system from a neoliberal economics to ecological or environmental economics, and to pursue sustainable development, and to even looking at these climate change scenarios to practice the precautionary principle. And I must say that, you know, the idea of climate change can obscure the importance of environmentalism, or not environmentalism, but sustainable growth, smart growth. Now, if you just take out the idea of climate change, and even if that wasn't a threat, that the policies and the growth, the economic and sustainable growth would be the same as combating climate change. Now, we'll go into that later, but I just want you to know my position on that. But this show is about our grief and facing these ideas and concepts that are in the future. So I mean that it would be the same in the future, is that I mean our mental state would be the same, I think. Meaning that today, now, for most of us, everything is okay. Basic needs are being met, and it's not an emergency. Now, if you don't change, excuse me, if you don't change your state of mind and your psychology, that you can be in the future and you will be the same in fear and projecting, even again, you will be in the future projecting into the future. So that's what I mean. Now, I also said that I thought climate change will be gradual, and I'm sure people are saying, no, it's not going to be gradual. There'll be feedbacks, and that's the whole problem. And I understand that, but what I mean is, I think that I think it would probably be gradual, and there are scientific principles that state that the increase in carbon dioxide is, with regards to the temperature, is a logarithmic increase, meaning it's not linear, that as the more carbon dioxide put into the atmosphere doesn't have an exact equal increase in temperature, that it is a diminishing increase. Now, I know that people say, well, that doesn't matter anyway. That's in the models. Yes, but it is a variable that is important to look at. Um, what I mean is the most scary projections, I don't think will be this abrupt. So that meaning that I don't think that you need to be terrified of the future of what will happen. For example, the idea that there will be no food, that the food crops will fail, rice, wheat, all this, and billions of people will starve. Within weeks, there'll be mass starvation and mayhem, and you can just imagine what that kind of a world looks like. I simply don't think that will play out, even in the worst case scenarios. I think we're quite clever farmers. Some way we will be able to meet our basic needs, and it won't be that way. That's just my opinion. Another example, the idea that all the nuclear reactors are going to melt down all at once and just that's the end. No more life on planet, human extinction, and that will happen within a couple of decades or so. I don't see that as there could be events where, like Fukushima, but I can't imagine all that. I don't understand that the staff of the nuclear plants just drop dead all of a sudden and they don't decommission the plants and see, you know what I mean? So I don't think that's something that you should actually be terrified and worried about. Those are a couple examples. Um, that's my opinion. It's nothing to be, so I don't think we should have terror and fear of this happening in the future, creating climate grief and trauma. And I guess now the point is, right, let's look again at the worst case scenario. Not the worst, but a very bad case, is that in the future, the Earth, we will adapt, and the Earth will, let's say, even a few decades or this century, that the Earth is going to look very different than it does today. That's very possible. What will it look? It will be a more human engineered living environment with much less nature and just a more artificial human-made planet. That's probably what it would be like if we don't change the way we develop. But will people care that much? Some people will. But if you look at in America, now I remember this from architecture school, that Americans on average spend 90% of their time indoors. Now I'm not average. I get out all I can. I love being outside. But that says that people are indoors anyway all the time. Another thing to kind of just to think about is that some of the cities, especially these Asian mega cities, in my opinion, are already ecological nightmares that look like some kind of future nightmarish place to live. That's coming from a guy that's, from the Midwest, a small town. Now, you have many, many people that voluntarily go to these places and live. So, I mean, so, that says something about people. They love these cities that are just, I've lived in some of these cities. You go in there and they have, some of these cities, I won't name any, but they have obliterated nature off, just unbelievable. And people love these places. They go, they live their whole lives there. They consciously go there and live. Now, some have to go there to get jobs, but not all. A lot of people voluntarily go there. People go there to retire, and I guess people like cities. And I did studies on this that the future of human development is urbanization will increase. So people are not moving out to the rural areas. They are moving into cities for whatever reason. But so that is just an observation about how people are living already. And so you can kind of see what I think that says something about the way the future is going to be. Um, and is that a terrible thing? Well, I don't know. That's for you to decide. Is it a thing to be terribly feared of? I don't think so. I think you'll still be able to live out in the country if you want and have your basic needs met. So anyway, I just wanted to add these things and just to wrap up this type of a show that is looking at maybe an unnecessary and unfound anxiety and worry and depression about the future of this planet. I want to give you some more resources about this subject. There's a YouTube channel called The Agenda with Steve Piken, but I'll link that. There's a good show. It's called Burnout, The Toll of Studying Climate Change, and that has some interesting interviews with people. There's another channel called Yale Climate Connections, and that has an interesting video on, it's called Textbook Trauma, The Emotions of Climate Change. And then there's a woman that writes about this and has many books and a website dealing with eco-psychology, and from there are many other resources and that might be helpful. Her name is Carolyn Baker. So I will link all those. And please give comments on this subject and other resources that you may have, and tell me what you think. If people watch this and they comment, maybe have another show on it and talk about some of the comments and further look into this. Will be a continuing thing, I'm sure. So that's it for this short video. I thank you for joining me, and I hope you will join me for the next show on eco-spiritualism. And thank you for joining me, and hope to see you next time. Bye.